Not all mother's love is healing. Some of it is fear, passed for generations until you break the chain. Alice Miller. You don't live freely. You survive in someone else's script, and that someone is your mother. It's a hard truth, maybe the hardest. But freedom starts not with motivation or goals, it starts with betrayal. Betrayal of the illusion that she didn't shape you, that you're your own person, that her voice isn't still echoing inside your head. You wake up, make decisions, react, feel, and hate yourself, not because you're broken, but because you're running a program you didn't write. She did, with her fears, with her pain, with her shame. From the first moment you opened your eyes, you looked into hers. That was your first mirror. That's how deep this goes. She didn't just feed you, she programmed you. With words, with silences, with sighs, with punishments, with rewards, with approval, with coldness. And here's the terrifying part. She did this every single day for years. 10, 15, 20, day after day, hour after hour. You think it's just upbringing. It's not. It's brainwashing. Socially accepted, wrapped in love, but still brainwashing. And no one told you that every time she was anxious, she taught your nervous system to panic. That every time she was disappointed in you, she planted a seed of shame you now call your inner critic. That her lack of presence became your addiction to validation. You didn't choose this, but now it runs your life. Her beliefs are your limits. Her wounds are your fears. Her coping mechanisms are your patterns. And no matter how much therapy you've done, how many books you've read, if you haven't looked at her inside you, you're still not free. This isn't about blaming. This is about seeing. Seeing how much of you isn't really you. And it's painful because we love our mothers, even the cold ones, even the absent ones, especially them. We defend them more fiercely than ourselves. We carry their image like a relic, sacred, untouchable. But here's the paradox. As long as you protect her inside you, you abandon yourself. You will never be free until you ask one forbidden question. What did she put inside me that doesn't belong there? Because every day you delay that question, you keep dying, slowly, silently, in relationships that suffocate you, in jobs that numb you, in habits that destroy you. And the worst part, you think it's your fault. It's not. She built the system. You're still running it. And if that hits you, if that truth makes your chest heavy, if something in you whispers, finally, someone said it, then don't ignore that. Subscribe to the channel, because this conversation isn't happening anywhere else, and join the Telegram. We're building a space for those who are done pretending. Because this is just the beginning. You didn't just learn how to walk or speak from her, you learned how to exist, and not on your terms. She taught you how to feel, or how not to. She taught you what's safe to say and what must stay buried. She taught you what parts of you are lovable and which ones deserve punishment or silence. Not with lectures, with tone, with looks, with reactions, with what she gave and what she withheld. Your entire nervous system was calibrated to her moods. When she smiled, you relaxed. When she was cold, you learned to scan for threats. When she needed something, you adapted, over and over, until you forgot what it meant to be you without her. She didn't need to say much. Children absorb everything. The way she treated herself became your internal blueprint. If she was anxious, you became hypervigilant. If she was controlling, you learned to suppress your instincts. If she was a victim, you took on guilt. And if she was emotionally absent, you learned to chase people who reject you, because that pain felt like home. It sounds cruel, but this isn't about cruelty. It's about transmission. You are the result of what was passed down, consciously or not. We grow up thinking freedom is about choices, but most of the choices you make are echoes of her fears. You say no where she was afraid. You self-sabotage where she didn't believe in herself. You avoid success because it threatens the comfort of failure you inherited. And the worst part? You call it personality. But personality is just a story wrapped around survival. And most of that survival wasn't even yours. It was hers. You became her emotional caretaker before you knew what a boundary was. You became her protector before you even knew how to protect yourself. This is why life feels like pressure, because you're carrying two people, her and you. And most of the time, she wins. You can't set boundaries if you're still trying to protect her. You can't find purpose if you're still seeking her approval. You can't love yourself if the version of you she rejected still runs your choices. That's not freedom. That's bondage dressed up as love. And deep down, you know it. You've felt it in relationships. You compromise your needs to keep the peace, just like you did with her. You over-explain yourself, afraid of being misunderstood because she never really listened. You chase unavailable people because she was emotionally distant. Or worse, you become emotionally unavailable because vulnerability once cost you her warmth. The script is old, but it's still running until you pause and name it. You didn't choose this system, but you're the only one who can rewrite it. There's one truth you need to face, not to feel better, but to become free. You will never live your life until you admit how deeply you're still living hers. This is not about memory. It's not about the past. It's about what still lives inside you today. The way you doubt yourself, the way you shrink, the way you sabotage every breakthrough right before it happens. That's not random. That's inheritance. Because long before you knew the word identity, she was handing you one. Piece by piece, rule by rule. Her beliefs became your limitations. Her expectations became your chains. Her shame became your inner voice. And the hardest part is, you still think it's you. You think you're just insecure. You think you're indecisive. You think you're just afraid of failing. But if you trace the thread, it leads back to one person, one relationship, one voice you couldn't question. Her. There's a reason this is the one relationship no one wants to examine, because to face it feels like betrayal. To look at her influence is to risk losing the illusion of safety, of love, of she did her best. And maybe she did, but even her best came with shadows. And if you don't name them, they'll keep running your life. Think about it. How many things are you still doing to make her proud? How many decisions are still filtered through what she'd think? How many times have you stayed small because success might create distance from her? This is not love. This is a cage built from loyalty. And here's the paradox. The more loyal you are to her pain, the more disloyal you become to yourself. This is not about turning against her. This is about turning toward yourself. Because until you separate who she is from who you've become, you'll keep living her patterns, her wounds, her fears. You'll marry versions of her. You'll parent like her. You'll fight her inside yourself while pretending you've moved on. This is why nothing changes. This is why no book or therapist or retreat sticks, because you haven't removed the root. Her voice in your nervous system, in your body, in your inner dialogue. And here's the most painful part. Some of the things you love most about yourself, they're also hers. Your empathy, your intuition, your resilience. She gave you those. But they came with a cost. You learned them through pain, not freedom. And that pain is still inside you. So no, You can't just move on. You have to go back, not to blame, but to separate. What's mine? What's hers? What do I want to keep? And what do I need to let die? Because until you do, you're not living, you're echoing. This isn't theory, this is biology. Neuroscience confirms what you've felt your whole life, that a child's brain is molded by the emotional patterns of their primary caregiver. And for most of us, that was the mother. Her tone of voice, her regulation of emotions, her presence or absence, it didn't just influence you, it wired you, literally. Your default emotional reactions, your tolerance for stress, your need for validation, these aren't just personality traits. They are neurological responses shaped by her. And if you look at the lives of people you admire, those who broke free, who live fully, who move through the world with grounded clarity, many of them will tell you they had to confront their parental programming. Not just the obvious trauma, the subtle messages, the invisible contracts, the inherited guilt, the survival strategies passed down as love. You see it in interviews, in memoirs, in therapy rooms. The moment things begin to shift is the moment someone stops protecting the illusion of a perfect mother and starts examining the influence of a real woman with her own pain, fear, and unfinished business. That's when the healing begins. Because now, you're not healing her wounds in yourself. You're healing your own. It's uncomfortable, sometimes brutal, but it's the only path to sovereignty. Because as long as she's sacred in your psyche, you're not. As long as her image is untouchable, your truth is buried. You'll keep defending her while abandoning yourself. You'll keep loving her through self-destruction. And society doesn't help. It worships mothers. It tells you that questioning her is disrespectful, that honoring her means silence, that love means loyalty, even to your own detriment. But let's be honest, what kind of love demands you disappear? The most dangerous patterns are not the loud ones. They're the invisible ones. The way you flinch when someone raises their voice. The way you minimize your needs. The way you feel guilty for resting. The way you can't say no without panic. These aren't quirks. These are traces of the system she built in you. And if you've ever felt stuck, like no matter how much you grow, something keeps pulling you back, this is why. You've done the surface work. You've changed habits, but the operating system still runs on her emotional coding. Until you strip it down, you're just rearranging the prison. It's not a question of if she shaped you. It's a question of how much you're willing to face it. You think you're free because you moved out, built a career, started a family. But freedom isn't measured by distance or success. Freedom is measured by how silent her voice has become inside your head. And for most, that voice still runs the show. It whispers when you're about to say no. It hesitates when you're about to speak up. It panics when you get too close to someone. It shames you when you rest. It doubts you when you try something new. It doesn't scream. It suggests, quietly, persuasively, like she always did. That's not you. That's her emotional DNA, still pulsing in your decisions. This is why your life feels like walking through mud. You think you're lazy. You think you lack motivation. But it's not that. It's conflict, in a war. Between what you want and what she would have wanted. Between your truth and her survival strategy. And as long as that war stays unspoken, it wins. You can't meditate your way out of this. You can't journal it into silence. Because you're not dealing with thoughts, you're dealing with imprints. Deep grooves in your nervous system built over years of repetition. She didn't just teach you how to behave, she taught your body how to feel. This is where Jung was right. The shadow runs the show until you face it, and your mother's shadow became yours. The parts of her she couldn't face, her rage, her weakness, her fear, her shame, were handed to you like invisible armor, and now you wear it. Heavy, unconscious, familiar. You see this play out in your triggers. You overreact to rejection because her coldness taught you love is conditional. You avoid confrontation because she punished honesty. You fear abandonment because she left emotionally long before she ever left physically. And now, every relationship feels unsafe. Every dream feels like a risk. Every step forward is haunted by her unhealed past. You think you're being cautious, but really you're being loyal. Loyal to the version of you that kept her happy. Loyal to the child that kept the peace. Loyal to the silence that once kept you safe. And until that loyalty is broken, you will never be free. This is the illusion of healing. You think because you understand the pain, you've moved past it. But understanding is not freedom. Freedom is when you stop living her wounds as your identity, when you stop mistaking inherited fear for intuition, when you stop protecting the system that broke you. And here's the truth no one tells you. Freedom feels like betrayal at first, but it's not. It's devotion. Devotion to the part of you that never got to live. So how do you break the pattern? How do you finally start living your life instead of acting out hers? It starts with naming what you inherited. You can't change what you haven't made conscious. Sit down and write, what beliefs do I hold that sound like my mother? What fears in my body feel like hers? What reactions, the ones that come out automatically, are echoes of her behavior, not mine? Make it specific. Do you avoid confrontation because she exploded when challenged? Do you apologize for your needs because she punished you for having them? Do you hustle endlessly because she only gave you affection when you achieved? These aren't quirks, they're survival tactics you learned to stay safe in her emotional world. But you're not that child anymore, and it's time to stop acting like one. Next, separate. Draw a line between what's truly yours and what was never yours to begin with. If a belief creates shame, paralysis, or guilt, examine its origin. If a behavior feels compulsive, self-sacrificing, or draining, ask whose need it's serving. Often, it's not even about you. It's about maintaining unconscious loyalty to a woman who couldn't carry her own pain. Then, write a letter. Not one you send, one you write to say everything you've never dared. The anger, the sadness, the disappointment, the truth. Not to blame, but to empty, to release the weight you've been hauling for decades. Get it out of your system, out of your body, out of the silence. Let it be messy, raw, and real. Let it be yours. And don't stop at words. Go into your body. The trauma didn't just land in your thoughts. It lives in your nervous system. Move, shake, breathe, cry, scream if you have to. Let the repressed energy rise and exit. Trauma that isn't expressed becomes identity. You don't want that. Then, create one small act of rebellion, something she would have disapproved of, something that breaks the invisible rulebook you've been living by. Rest when she said work. Speak up where she stayed quiet. Say no where she guilted you into yes. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be real. Because every time you choose differently, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every boundary you set without shame. Every moment of joy you allow without guilt. Every truth you speak without fear of her reaction is a doorway to freedom. This isn't about removing her from your heart. It's about removing her from the control panel of your life. Love her, respect her, but do it with open eyes. Do it without sacrificing your own soul. Here's the final truth, the one that hits the deepest, the one that explains why no one escapes this. Not you, not me, not anyone. Every single mother, no matter how loving, how caring, how devoted, passes on not just her love, but her inner world, her beliefs, her fears, her shame, her emotional blueprint. And unless she's done deep inner work herself, what she gives isn't neutral, it's loaded. This happens not because she's bad, but because she's human. She raises you through the lens of her pain. She shapes you with hands that were shaped by her own mother. And if no one in that lineage ever stopped to clean the wound, you're bleeding with stories that never belonged to you. Here's the most common example. Almost every mother, even the strongest ones, lives with some version of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough. And that fear, spoken or unspoken, becomes law inside the child. You internalize it, not because she said it directly, but because you absorbed how she carried herself, how she talked to others, how she reacted to uncertainty. Maybe she told you to be careful every time you took a risk. Maybe she panicked when you made mistakes. Maybe she avoided conflict, so you learned that truth is dangerous. Or maybe she was a perfectionist, always tired, always overwhelmed, and you thought love meant self-sacrifice. These messages get into your bones before you can form language, and now you call them personality. But it's not personality, it's programming. And it's in everyone, every family, every home. Because even the best mothers pass on what they didn't heal. And if you never question that inheritance, you become a carrier. You hand it off to your kids, your partner, your team, your friends. And the cycle keeps going. So what do you do with this? You face it, and you talk about it. With her, if she's open, with yourself, always. Avoiding this conversation is what keeps generations asleep. Silence is what feeds the system. But when you sit down and say, "Mom, I love you, but I see the things I've carried, and I don't want to carry them anymore," something shifts. Maybe not in her, but in you. And if that conversation isn't safe, say it to yourself. Write it, voice it, burn it if you have to. But stop pretending you're not still shaped by her shadow. Here's something you can do today. Sit in silence and write 3 things. 1 belief you hold that feels like hers. 1 behavior you do to avoid her disapproval. In truth you've never said to her, not even in your mind. Name them, claim them, and then decide, do I still want to carry this? You don't need to fix everything tonight, but you need to start, because nothing in your life will fully change. Not your success, not your relationships, not your inner peace, until this root is seen, named, and healed. The mother wound isn't a side issue. It's the blueprint behind almost everything. So yes, it matters. It matters more than you think. And it matters now. Not tomorrow, not next month, not after the next book or retreat. Now. Because if you don't choose to break the cycle, no one will. And if these words hit you, if you feel something shifting, then subscribe to the channel. Let others who are ready find this truth too. Join the Telegram. We talk there about the things no one else dares to say. And if you recognized yourself in this, write in the comments. I no longer run from my pain. Let's see how many of us are ready for truth. And share this video with someone who still lives by someone else's rules. It might be the first step to their freedom too. This is only the beginning, but it starts with you.